Guys, turn your mic off. Okay. So today we're gonna start the machine call me and my girlfriend. So this is the IP address 192.168.0.101. So in this IP address, we can see that there is a pop-up. Who are you, hacker? Sorry, this can be accessed by local. And what does this mean? So what we're gonna do? We're gonna do step by step. For example, let's try with Nmap, with the advanced scanning part. So I'm gonna scan the entire IP address. And let's see if we can find something about in the NICTO also. So the Nmap has been done, or we can see that the port number 22 is open there and the port 80 is open there. So we have only two ports. But for the port number 22, it doesn't have the usernames and password for the access login on the server side. So what we can do, we can see that through the NICTO scan, if we can find some relevant data. For example, let's see if we can find relevant directories on the server side. So the major part, we can see there is a hapo.txt file. So I doesn't know what is this. So let's copy this one and let's paste it over here. And over here that we can see that there's a pop-up. Great. What you need now is to recon, attack and get the shell. Okay, so we have again a proper shell over here. So the most important part that we're gonna do is we're gonna try one by one all the things. Miscellaneous, it's like interesting over here. But sometimes the file might be hide or something might be hidden. And over here we can see in the miscellaneous we have some directories on the server side. So over there there's a file called process.php file. In the process.php file there is nothing over there. There's only blank. Same. Let's try with the dirbuster. Let's try to enumerate the server if we can find some relevant server side data. So I'm going to copy the URL and I'm going to paste it over here. Directory crawling. Number of threads according to your server need. User, share, word list, dirbuster. We can use any of this one. And the programming language they are using. Let's try the programming language they are using for PHP and the Ubuntu server. So the extension is given PHP. So we can find the relevant data on the server side. We need to find the directories and the files on the server. So let's start. And over here, that we have to wait for the files to be seen. So the most important thing we can see that there's an icon directory, miscellaneous directory, index.php in that, and we have a config directory. But for the config directory, we can see this config.php file and it's 200. Let's try this one. In the config.php file, there is nothing over there. So what will be over here? What is the meaning of config.php file in the real life scenarios? So in the config.php file, as you can see over here, the last thing that remains to be before starting with the management of your site. The configuration, file configuration, PHP is important because it sets up connection between a PHP file and a PHP nuke and the MySQL database management. So in the configuration file, there could be a MySQL database management files, or you can say a database server credentials. So we can see that there is a file of config.php on their landed. So what we can try, let's try with the information gathering again. And over here that we can see who are you, sorry, this can be accessed by the local. So what does it mean? Let's try with the backend source. So in the backend source, when you are doing a pen testing, it is called white box pen testing, which is easier for us for penetrate. But black box pen testing, this is more difficult. For over here, you can see again the same message, but you maybe reach search how to use X forward for. So what does it mean of X forward for? A new word again. So again, I'm going to try the google.com. So over here, as I can see that X forward for XSF header is a de facto standard header for identifying the originating IP address of the client, connecting with the web server through an HTTP proxy or load balancer. So when we communicate with the client to the server side, we basically use X forward for. But in the real life scenario, we know about the X forward host header injection attack. Host header injection. So in the host header injection, if I talk about, which we can simply redirect the client request to somewhere else website. The specific host header injection, which website or web application should process or incoming HTTP request, the web server uses the value of header to dispatch the request to a specific website or a web application. So it means we can redirect the client request to someone else. But over here, they said if you want to access that server, you should be local. So let's try this machine. And I'm going to use Burp Suite for this one. So let's try the Burp Suite. Java-jar decoder. So I'm going to use my crack version. Let's try the crack version. So the buster has been done. So what we can do, we can make it side. We know that request over here. So what I'm going to do, let's try the Burp Suite over here. And we have to configure the Burp Suite first of all. Regenerate serial certificate, then the IP address of my local machine. It's 8080. Download the certificate. Let's download the certificate, not open the certificate. Then the preference, and I have to use the network part, manual settings, then the certificate, import, downloads, and we can see the certificate over here. So let's try this machine. So it can be accessed by the local X forward by. So as per the host header injection, let's do this. And we have a request over here. But before that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to send this to repeater. So as per the data host header injection that the client request to us submitted to somewhere else. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to add another host, which is your X forwarded for and the local loopback IP address. Why? Because the server can be accessed by the local as per the details. So I'm going to paste this one either over here because we need to use this one multiple times. So if I execute, I can see the 302 which is called found. Is it working? Let's check in the show browser. Nope. So let's use the X forward Y over here. Okay, the mistake. Let's try it again. And we have a login page over here. See, the client request has been modified with the normal one. But there is one more mistake. If you try to click this one, it will redirect you to the same website. So all you have to do is, when you redirect the client request, you have to simply post the link. When you remove this one, all you can see that over there is a username and password. And simply, if you see over here, then you have a page with the login. So if you have a parameter with the value, you can try a lots of things over there. For example, file inclusion vulnerability, SQL injection vulnerability. But over here, there's a username and password. Let's try with a backslash. And we can see that we have, say, login failed. But miscellaneous process.php was a directory that we find on the dirbuster, if you remember. See, this was the directory which we can see over here also, which is act as the login. Again, it will redirect the client request to the same directory where we started. So again, let's try this one. X forward by, we can see the resistant, but over there, there was no SQL injection over there because it was login failed. So what we can do, we can try to check the resistant. So intercept on, click on the resistant, and over here, you can see, again, I have the request and I'm going to post the server with the localhost. And in the back end, I can simply see the data. So what we're going to do, over here, register is basically a new page. And you can see over here, the page is equal to register. We can try lots of tools for finding the page is equal to is file inclusion vulnerability or other steps. But what are we going to do? We're going to try something new over here. So I'm going to make simple a Partho email address. Let's try partho@gmail.com. Partho123 password. Let's try Mandal. It was successfully created. That we can see that in the get request that it has successfully created our client request. So let's try. Over here, the page is login successful. But still, we are on the same page now. But what are we going to do? We're going to try to log in that server again. with the file. But now I have the password, which is 123, and Mandal. But before that, login, and we can see the path and the password has been set. So let's try X forward Y, and over here, that if you see that I have an index.php which has a page parameter which is a dashboard, and the user ID is 12. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply send this one on to repeater. So we have a simple index.php ID is equal to 1. So we're going to try the SQL injection with the single backslash, and I'm going to put the again the X forward by, and let's see the response. From the server side, we can see that the request is 200, and if you go down, you can see welcome to the Sebep Corp, inspiring the people to great deal profile, and you can see, are you ready for inspiring the people? Let's do it. Okay, it's a normal dashboard over here, but over here I'm not able to find that the server is vulnerable or not. Let's try to change the value with ID is equal to 1. Again, I can see nothing over there. ID is equal to 2, which is called your session manipulation, session management. Broken authentication and session management vulnerability of your OWASP top 10. So I was basically manipulating the data of the URL with the user ID to simply fetch that data on the backend side. But over here, there's nothing. Let's try again. But over here, I'm gonna use some different parameters. So for example, dashboard over there, profile and the logger. Let's use the profile manager. So profile, let's try the repeater mode again. Sorry, so it means I have to use this one. And over here, we have some output from the server side. Value and the password. So let's try to copy this one and paste it over here. And the value name was this. Let's try to manipulate more. Let's use 2 over there. And the profile, we can see there are some usernames plus the passwords. Let's use 3, I guess. We can see there are more usernames. Let's try to copy this all. Let's try to manipulate 4. This is all your session management, that anyone hacker simply manipulate the data from the backend with the change in the value of the another parameter value, and you can see that we can simply manipulate or jump to the any other database on the server side. And see over here that we are enumerating the usernames from the backend of the server, and I can see that there are some users like this. We have an ls username and the password. So in this CTF, there was a vulnerability of your SQL. It was your host header injection plus your session management vulnerability, which can be executed from the URL manipulation. So what we can try, to access any of the users from here. Let's try this one, Alice. As you can see that the port number 22 was open on the server side. We can try SSH Alice at the rate, the IP address. He's asking me something like SSH. So what you can do is you can simply make a new user of that. Let's try this one. Sorry, I forget the bool line, my mistake. And we can see that we are already created with the old one. So we have a login form. And let's try the password, which was Alice over here. And we are logged in on the server. But the most important thing in this machine was to find the vulnerabilities. We have a my secret. Let's see this one. What does it have? The first flag. And my note. Whoa, I think it's a company. I hope this is where I get better partner than Bob. Hopefully Bob doesn't know my notes. Okay. So as per the data, we were looking, as we are on the server side, we have gained access to the server side with the Alice. But the main objective that we had a configuration file on the directory. You can see on your Durburst that we have a config.file on the server side. Let's see if we can find some data relevant to the server or not. So cd var www html, and we can see the config file. So cd config lsf and all, and we can see the file over there. And in that server, we can see the MySQLite Connect localhost with the user with the root and the password. CBI cop. If I simply copy this one, we have a MySQL root. So let's try MySQL-u root -p and the password. And we are on the server side with the MariaDB. Show databases. Use megacop. Show tables. Select star from table user. See, I have created my username also there, and we can see the usernames which Alice or passwords are the usernames. What we can do, we can try sudo -l, and through the sudo -l we can see that there's no access of PHP with the server. No password required for the PHP. It means this one is your sudo user on the server side. If you look over here, prior to so we're gonna use the tag called exploiting sudo right users. Same thing if the attacker can't directly get any root access via any of the techniques, he might try to compromise any of the user who use sudo access. So we can use sudo -l to give the permission of the user according to the server side. And over here, we can see that the sudo user is PHP, he's using PHP format server. Or either way, we can try the root password. If you use su root and the password, you can see that I am root. Got the flag. So in this machine, it was all about your system access.